Let's make an attempt to go into a samach base, a different world. Jacob, Beis Kufnum Ches, Beis Samach Beis. And we're dealing in principle with makif. What is makif and how is makif relate to world? Pointed out that the makif of Akat that I'm speaking about is not just a makif that stands above and enables world. But actually, it permeates the world to the extent that an ayid, an Yiddish neshama, as a result of this makif, there is the koyach of a mesiras nefesh, a kiddush Hashem. We already discussed this phenomenon, and also ultimately, the ahava, b'chol meidcho, that the Yid has ahava le'elakus, at the level of b'chol meidcho, is also due to the makif. In other words, this kind of ahava, this kind of mesiras nefesh, is not possible via the process of seichel and midas, of knowing what you're doing and understanding it. This is possible only by the effect of a makif, of a super consciousness. Excuse me. A super consciousness of the inyan of an accused that is not worldly at all. That's super worldly. And the accused that's above world. Despite the fact that it's above world, we are given the means by which we are sensitive to it. As a result of that, it raises us, raises the neshama to a madrege that is able to go on mesiras nefesh of kiddush Hashem, and in aveda the ahava b'chol meidcho. The principle of ahava b'chol meidcho is ahava b'chol meidcho. We always point out that this is a category by itself. And normal, within the normal capacity, normal because it has a seichel process. Ahava b'chol meidcho is something which bypasses the entire seichel process. Where does that come from, and how is it possible that a Yid should function at that level? It is by relating to the source of sources, to recognizing that he really is not beginning from being a human being. He begins from being godly. And by relating to this source of godliness, he is able to bring forth in his avodah, in his conscious avodah, from Abo l'chol me'ich, the Messiah's nefesh HaKiddush Hashem. Okay, let's pursue it further. Maskim. Kol zeh hu b'makiv diak. All of this, as we discussed, the whole union of Mesiras Nefesh, and the people of total union, something that supersedes the created entity. But the created entity relates to the source of his own creation. This is due to the effect of the makiv of Adam Kadmon. Because there is a sense of the makiv in the neshama. This is why the neshama is able to rise out of the sense of its own mitzias and reaching into the source of its mitzias. And this is the madriga of makiv ak. As I said before, there is two madrigas in makiv in general, and Adam Kadmon, this is the lower of the two madrigas. And how you define the lower of two madrigas? He says the mikol mokoy. The mikol mokoy means that despite the fact that it's a makiv, which means it's aloof from world, yesh lo shaychus eloh ha'olamis. It has a relationship to world. There is a relationship to the world, which means that there is a sense of a knowledge, of recognition of world from the makiv perspective. Again, the makiv is that which remains connected to the source of sources, to the etzem of the makos. Makiv is not in the realm of a created entity. It is a hamshocha from the makos directly, of godliness, which is not a created entity. But in makiv itself, there are two madrigas. There's a makiv as it relates to the source, and the makiv as it relates to that which comes from it, which is called the lower makiv. And this lower makiv, it's called Adam Kadmon, and hence the term Adam. Adam is like the created representation of God's representation in the world. The mikol mokoy, I'm repeating again, the mikol mokoy, that even though it's makiv, yet still, yesh l'shaychus eloh ha'olamis, it has a relationship to the world. In this makif, there is a cognizance of what world is. What is in fact world relative to the makif, relative to the cause? The first principle of world is that world is a created entity. It has no self-standing source, self-standing basis. It's what's called the AYIN. It's a creation. A created entity does not have, by definition, a fundamental truth of itself, of its own. It's a creation. I want to demonstrate a little bit, if I may. You're all suffering through this, so you might as well try to get into it. We speak, going back always to the simplest of illustrations. A table is a structure that's built from material within the world. And from a worldly perspective, the table stands by totally worldly support. There's no mystery about the table stand. There's nothing spiritual about it. It stands because it has four legs on a board and it's standing on the ground, so it stands. It doesn't stand because it has some kind of a significance, some kind of a spirit to stand. Nothing. It stands because the world itself gives it the support, the means by which it can stand. But then, we go a little bit deeper into the sense of the makif that is provided for the world. Then we can recognize that despite the fact that the table is really has the worldly support to stand, yet we all recognize that in fact the portal table does not stand because of its worldly capacity. It stands because it has a sense and a meaning for where it stands. There's some kind of a concept, of a higher perspective than world, than table, that allows it to stand. So the world itself physically can disclaim anything other than worldly. But the truth is, the reason there is a table in the first place, the reason the table stands in a place, certain place, there is a higher, a more meaningful, more spiritual sense to it than the physical, than the worldly aspect. As we explained many times, that even from a practical worldly perspective, a table does not stand for the comfort, for the ability for the human being to use things. He needs a book in your hand. He needs a place to put the book down. He stands from a higher, from a different level. He stands for the dignity of the human being. He stands to express How a human being really is independent of the world. He is in a different category. He is in a spiritual company. He's supposed to be sitting and learning. And the world only provides the means by which he can learn. But what is his function? His function in the world, his present in the world, does not represent the present in the world, represents a higher aspect. This is why the world stands on the ready to support this higher aspect. So that the table is a kind of a reflection of a service to the human being of a human level rather than a worldly level. This is a demonstration of a makif, of a super worldly quality that is in fact recognizable and functions within the worldly structure. To the extent that it's possible to miss the point and not recognize that there is something higher in this. We think it's a border for the legs, and that's why it stands. We don't think that because we immediately recognize that there's something unique, something special about it. So here is a makif that provides a makif concept, an illumination, a raising up on the worldly level. This is the pshat. It has some kind of a correlationship. It can be understood and it can be seen from a worldly perspective. Let's pursue inside. Hagam, although at the end of the Hagam, although Shhu b'bchinas makif, although that it is b'bchinas makif, it is in a makif aspect of quality. Harochik, that is distant from the physical, from the worldly structure. So despite the fact that it is really a makif, which is higher than world, it still has cognizance of the world, and the world can understand, it can translate it in its terms. The world can translate and recognize world from a makif perspective. This is called makif diak. Odom kadmon. Odom is a creation, it has to do with world. But this is called Kadmon. This is the Odom as it precedes the creation. Whence the creation of the world comes from. And therefore this makif is, even though there is makif, but it has a shaykhas on the world, and in other words, it recognizes world and gives world a support. It allows world to function also in the worldly level. Not exclusively, it gives it a super meaning, but nevertheless the super meaning is translated on the worldly level. So due to the fact that it is a makif, it actually imbues in the neshama a makif quality. It imbues in the neshama a makif quality in a manner that the neshama can actually relate to it. Do you understand what it is? Like we say, Mesiras Nefesh. Mesiras Nefesh is an avodah from the neshama. Kabbalah Soy. Kabbalah Soy means that he recognizes that he and Malkus are two different categories, two different levels. But he is Makabbalah. So there's a worldly process there. Okay, should we continue? Hello?
Yes.
I'm at the end of the top line again. Hagam shu b'chinas makif b'rochoi, even though it is in a b'chinus ma'al makif, which is distant from world, nonetheless it has a shaykhus to the world. Ve'al kein, and thus, because it has a relationship to world, it's, in other words, it can recognize how this makif can translate on the worldly level. Therefore, nimshach misham eze haora. From there, from this makif, the alkev is drawn some haora, some reflection, some effect. Begili b'neshamos. To the extent that in the neshamas there is an actual expression, revelation of this makif. And as we said, we learned before, where do we see in the neshamas, the union from makif? Mesiras Nefesh. Ava b'chol ma'itcha. This is not a worldly phenomenon. And yet the neshama in the world has that capacity. Because the neshama recognizes, it has this influence and this inspiration from makif. It recognizes that even though it's in the world, it really is not worldly. It is not supported, it is standing and relating constantly to that which is higher than world. And this is why there's a ha'or. From this makif, because it has a shachas to animals, this is why it can make an imprint on world. And so there could be a ha'or of this begili. Begili means in full regalia, full cognizance in the neshamas. To the point that the neshama can have ahava to a lakus. Ahava to a lakus not merely because of understanding himself. Ahava b'chol yibetcha, b'chol vodcha, b'chol ma'itcha. B'chol ma'itcha means it's completely a non-entity. He gets about himself completely. To the Mesiras Nefesh. And he's able to have that. Because he actually senses and is inspired by something higher than world. This is because of the makif. The reason that this makif, despite the fact that it's a makif, it still can have influence to make an imprint and an effect on the world, is because that this makif is not totally remote from world. It's a makif that recognizes and has shaykhus to world. This makif is called Odom Kadmon. Odom, we know, is the prize creation in the world. this creation in the world is really a prize creation. It's a creation in the world that brings, that represents godliness in the world. No matter how much in the world he is, it still really is a entity and an entity by itself. The Tzalmenik is Muslim, as it's stated in Shabbos. He is created in the divine form, super worldly form. He's not a worldly creature. He functions in the world, but he doesn't really belong here. This Adam has a source in the Makif. It's called Adam Kadmon. The concept of Adam before world came into being. To give the possibility that there should be Adam in the world, you have to have a concept of Adam prior to creation. So Adam Kadmon has a shaychus aloylos. That even though it's a makif, which is distant from world, yet it has a cognizance of world. That's called Adam. Adam is the Elokus as it functions within world. And thus he says on the second line, this is why Nimshach Nisham Eizah Ha'ora B'gil Nisham. This is what ultimately it is actually felt in the Neshamas. The Neshamas have the capacity for Abba B'chol Ma'idcha. The Neshamas have the capacity for Mesiras Nefesh Al Kiddus Hashem, due to this influence of this Makif. While being in the world, they sense that they're really not world. This is all the Makif, the Ak, which means the lower level of Makif, the Makif that has some kind of a cognizance of it. Avo, okay, at the end of the second line, you're going now into the fire. Avo, but, Bechinas Tehiru Ilah, the Bechina, that's called Tehiru Ilah, the supreme purity. The purity as it is in godliness itself. Not as it translates towards world, but as it is connected in the source of it, the purity of godliness itself. Shezehu bechinas ha'igul hagodol, which is referred to as the Igul hagodol, the great circle, shelifnei hakav, that is before the kav. In the world, everything comes through the kav. Kav is a line. A line means, the principle of the kav is that even though it is a godly union which is super worldly, but it comes into the world bit by bit, like a line. A line consists of multi-points. Each point is identified individually. And each point is identified separately, one point below the other point. That's how a line is formed. Multi-points, many dots. And therefore the kav is that which permits, which enables that the Elokus should come into the world. Because the world can only take the unit of Elokus bit by bit. This is how the Elokus comes to the world through the Makif of Ak. Then there is Tehiru Ilah, there's the Makif, the super Makif. The supreme purity of the Elokus, which is the Oigul HaGodol Shefnei HaKav. that which encircles the entire existence before the Kaf. This is the way the ego is unto itself, not in order to provide for further development of world, but how it represents Hamakus itself. So ego hagodol shebnei hakaf. Hagam, although Shazehu Gamkin, although that this too is Bibchinas Makib Leilomis, this too has a Makib, stands in a Makib manner, Leilomis for world. Acharat Tzimtzum, after the Tzimtzum. It also provides for world, and after it, it is also a makif for world. But but it has no shachas. This is the ego hagodol representing that which is higher than the mind, the way it is above, before the creation, before the intent for creation. The principle of Tzimtzum. Tzimtzum is limiting and retracting the union of Elokus, allowing, revealing a recognition of something which is not pure Elokus, it's Tzimtzum. And thus it creates this ego, this great circle. Because in Elokus there is no circles. This great circle, the certain circle, is this great enablement for world. But this is still how this enabler is viewed from that which is higher than world, from the source perspective. And therefore this has no shaykhs and no ilomis. This has no relationship to the world, and it cannot possibly have a direct influence on world. And no ha'ora, no reflection of this is drawn begilu in any kind of an expressed overt manner. Because this is it cannot really express itself in words. And therefore it cannot be reflected in words. Because this is the way the union is, this is where it is, as it is part representing the source of the world rather than world. Okay, just a few more words to get us into the next bombshell. Omnom, however, in truth, Yoduait is known, the Shoevesh HaKelim, that the source of Kelim, Hu Nibchines Ho'er Makif Dafka. Here we have a real, so to speak, shock. The source for Kelim is from the Oyer Makif, rather than from Pnei. And here is where we come to identify the union of the Oyer Makif as it is the higher level of Maki, which ultimately turns out to be the source for Keli.